think we are live. Welcome to tonight's voice chat. If you guys are just popping in, just make sure to stay muted the whole time until we open it up, maybe until a little bit of Q&A at the end. I get easily sidetracked and go off on tangents on my own. Having other people add noise into that makes it difficult for me to remain focused. So just prefacing everything with that. But today, we're going to talk about what an NFT is. Most of you guys probably know this, but we need to create this content because there's a lot of people who don't. And we want to speak to them. We want them to understand, that there's a dissonance right now between what people believe they know about NFTs and what NFTs actually are and the utility and purposes that they can serve in real world systems. So I think part of the reason that NFTs gets a bad reputation is because people believe that they're just fancy JPEGs that people are flipping on the internet for millions of dollars, right? But what they don't know is all of the fantastic utilities and problems that can be solved by utilizing Web3, blockchain technology, and NFTs. So let's just get into it. An NFT stands for non fungible token. To understand what a non fungible token is, we must first understand what the definition of a fungible asset is. Okay, so fungible assets are those that can be exchanged or substituted and hold the same value. So they are interchangeable or replaceable assets. Okay, so here's some examples: gold, silver, dollars, or other forms of fiat currency, casino chips, Bitcoin, Ethereum, frequent flyer points. All of these are fungible assets because if I were to lend you, or if I was to lend somebody $10 cash and they returned to me two $5 banknotes, so two $5 bills, I would be okay with it because even though these assets are different, they hold the same total value. Okay, the same thing applies with like Bitcoin or Ethereum. If one Bitcoin is $20,000, which it is currently today, which is crazy, but here we are, and the exchange gives you 20,000 USD back in return for it, or 20,000 BUSD or whatever, you would be happy as these assets are interchangeable. Okay, you have the same total values preserved. So that's what makes these kinds of assets fungible. Okay, so by defining what a fungible asset is, we can then determine that non-fungible assets are those that cannot be substituted or replaced. Okay, they have unique attributes that make them different from something else within the same asset class. Okay, some examples here: original paintings, art, collectibles, event tickets to different things like theater tickets, movies, coaching, sports, etc. All that good stuff. Real estate, both physical and virtual. Video game characters, weapons, skins, those kinds of things. Trademarks, copyrights, and intellectual property. Okay. So it kind of gives you guys an idea of the difference between what a fungible asset is and a non-fungible asset. This is going to make a little bit more sense when we start talking about, what NFTs are at a fundamental level and why they have the power to be a very disruptive technology moving from centralized systems to decentralized systems. Okay. So now that we've covered this distinction between fungible and non-fungible, let's dive into the token part of NFTs, okay? Because non-fungible token. All right. So each non-fungible token, so each NFT is backed by the underlying code of the asset, okay? We know this because we're in DeFi and you guys are all here, but this is stuff that doesn't make a lot of sense to people, and we're trying to simplify it and break it down so it doesn't scare people away just because they don't understand it. Okay, this is an important part and distinction to clear up, like the dissonance of NFTs are just JPEGs that people are selling, shitty JPEGs that people are selling for money, right? This underlying code is really what gives NFTs the power and the value to really change a lot of domains landscapes as we know them. And we'll talk about a little bit of the utilities and applications that NFTs that are currently being used, and then we can even dubiously speculate or favorite about things that aren't being done right now that NFTs could potentially solve. And that's one of the reasons that Forge Finance was created, was to create a collective of people who have conversations at a very high level within their respective domains of expertise, and allow them to come up with innovative ways to change their to utilize Web3 and NFTs and yield farming and stuff within their real world business systems. And Forge is looking to develop the tools to help them do that, right? We were never the ones who are going to go out there and create all of this innovation, right? It would be stupid to not allow for the time and randomness and space for people within our collective to innovate within their areas of expertise. Otherwise, we need to go into different domains and we need to learn everything about everything. And it's a terrible allocation of resources, right? So we're putting the pieces together to put the right people in the right rooms, give them the tools necessary, and allow them to innovate. I think that's an important distinction to understand about Forge versus a lot of these other projects that you see. Okay. So each non-fungible token is backed by underlying code. This underlying code is known as a smart contract. Okay. This smart contract is what the token in NFT is referring to. Okay. So each unique smart contract provides authenticity and verifiable proof of ownership of a non-fungible asset. Okay, we're not going to go into the other side of smart contracts like ours for Forge that actually runs transactions with fungible assets. Okay, so Forge is a fungible asset. The NFTs that you'll be able to create with the Forge, our NFT generator, will be unique, authentic, and verifiable ownership of yourself. They will be non-fungible assets. Okay. So smart contracts are built on a blockchain. And I got a little tangential here, but I think it's important to explain to the new people how these things interact with each other and how they work. Because you tell somebody about smart contracts or liquidity pools or blockchain, they're just, there's a big question mark on their face, right? So if we can help people kind of connect the dots, it will give them I believe, in my opinion, it will give them a better understanding of how things work, which will give them more confidence in potentially, investing in any assets in DeFi. Okay. So smart contracts are built on a blockchain. A blockchain is a publicly distributed ledger that creates a transparent record of all the transactions completed. Each transaction is verified by network nodes through cryptography and is recorded on the public ledger. Okay. Now, most of this is, we're going to use Ethereum as an example because Ethereum is actually the closest to being decentralized along with Bitcoin. Binance is actually not. Binance is a carbon copy of the Ethereum blockchain, more or less. But what was I going to say about it? Oh, but it's not truly decentralized in nature, by nature. Okay. So examples of blockchains that are out there right now. For those of you here, you know these, but obviously Ethereum, Binance, Phantom, Avalanche. There's a bunch of different blockchains out there. These are kind of the most popular ones here. But what this means is a non-fungible token is a publicly verifiable digital asset that represents ownership of intellectual property, which is authenticated and verified by the blockchain. Okay, so it is a public ledger and record of transactions, and that's why NFTs via their underlying code, since they're non-fungible assets, can provide verifiable proof of ownership. Okay, without needing a third party or somebody to put the stamp of approval or something on it, right? So that's why smart contracts and blockchain technology is awesome, because essentially you're removing the middlemen from a lot of different industries. You're removing the banks, you're removing the payment systems, you're removing all these things that are kind of cutting into maybe your profits. And it's all happening automatically if parameters are met from both sides. That's how a smart contract works. If the contract's set up in a way where if this parameter is met and this parameter is met, then the transaction automatically executes. That technology in itself has the power to change so many different things. And I think that's one thing that's often overlooked. And definitely with NFTs, it's overlooked because people, again, the dissonance is, why would somebody buy a fucking fuzzy picture of a rock online for $2 million? I don't get it. Yeah, well, I don't get it either. It's just the trend, right? But the actual technology behind NFTs and Web3 and the blockchain is a game changer. And I believe, it is the beginning of the rebirth of the internet. And we're going to talk about it a little bit further down, or pretty much right here, actually. Okay. So it says, in our opinion, this is innovative and disruptive technology. Shocker. That's what I was just saying. Blockchain, smart contracts, NFTs, the whole 9 yards. It is being revered as the next evolution of the internet. Okay. So currently we're using what people refer to as Web 2. And the current evolution via blockchain technology is coined Web 3. Okay. So what the distinction is between Web 2 and Web 3 is important to understand if we're looking at the trajectory of the technology and how diffusion of innovation is going to assimilate into what we're currently seeing, right? Right now, we're kind of in that chasm of adoption where we're waiting for regulation to come in before actual big money can flood into this market and stabilize it and allow it to grow from, like we talked about earlier, it's 1/10 the size of gold's market cap alone. So it's a very small industry overall. So let's break down what the difference between Web 2 and Web 3 is. And this is going to be in reference to the Ethereum blockchain. Okay. So Web 2 refers to the version of the internet most of us know today, an internet dominated by companies that provide services in exchange for your personal data. Whether you know this or not, your data is being mined and sold. And Web 3, in the context of Ethereum, refers to decentralized apps that run on the blockchain. Okay, a lot of these, like NightSwap and a lot of these other like DEX tools, these are all dApps. Okay, they're interactive dApps. These are apps that allow anyone to participate without monetizing their personal data. Okay, so let's look at some practical comparisons so that this makes more sense and it's not so technical. Okay, so respective of the Ethereum blockchain, in Web 2 right now, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, they can censor any account or post that they want, right? This is, we saw a lot about this with Elon trying to buy a huge part of Twitter, right? Because he was sick of the censorship that was going on. Okay, and Web 3 would allow for uncensorable content because the control is no longer centralized, it is decentralized, right? Payment service merchants may decide to not allow payments for certain types of work in our current model. Okay, in Web 3, for better or for worse, payment apps and services require no personal data and cannot prevent payments due to any bias of any kind, right? So there's been a slander or an argument against crypto for a long time where it's like, there's a bunch of criminal activity going on with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is bad. And then you saw the war with Ukraine start, and all of a sudden the narrative changed to Bitcoin is a safe haven for people in Ukraine and Russia who can't withdraw funds. It's the narrative always twists and turns and changes to fit the current conditions. So just keep in mind that the news doesn't make the market makes the news. And the news is just fit to push whatever narrative or agenda they want. So be very wary about where you get your information from. Okay, don't ever take anything that I say for the truth. Go and research it yourself. I highly recommend that. Go look into it. And then the last application here is servers for gig economy apps could go down and have a negative effect on workers' income, whereas Web3 servers can't go down. They can slow down a lot, as we've seen with Ethereum and the gas prices and all kinds of stuff, right? Congestion and scalability become an issue, but their servers can't go down because they use Ethereum, which is a decentralized network of thousands of computers that are working on as their backend, right? So keep in mind, this doesn't mean that all services need to be turned into a dApp and that Web3 is going to solve everything, right? The examples above are illustrative of the main differences between Web 2 and Web 3 services. and it's just really barely scratching the surface of it. We wanted to try to keep it simple and not get into a bunch of different things, because if we get into a bunch of different things, it muddies the water and people get confused. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to remove confusion. We're trying to remove anxiety and uncertainty, and we're trying to remove risk. Okay, with educated and sophisticated investors, we significantly remove risk. It is a non-linear effect. It's not something that you can necessarily measure, but it's, in our opinion, it's one of the most important levers that you can pull in crypto, is building a community of a strong, engaged community of like-minded individuals working towards a common goal. Okay, so we had a meeting with the wardens today, and this is what we were talking about. The way we win is people showing up, engaging, participating, and building and accumulating and doing different things. But participation is how we win. And one of our biggest goals here at Forge is to build like a diehard community of people that love us, not because we're making them a ton of money, which is very possible, but because the value that we provide here doesn't cost them anything, right? If anything, it has a positive impact on their life. And there's been a lot of people that have reached out and told me, hey, because of this or that, I've started making these changes and it's really started to align me, or I have less anxiety and stuff like that. And I know how that feels, because a year ago when I started applying these things and following these strategies, it changed me a lot. And Callie can attest to that. She remembers the old days. But to get back to where we were, wow, that's cool. I have a question though. If NFTs and blockchain technology are revolutionizing the internet, how come they get a bad reputation as expensive JPEGs? We talked about this earlier, right? There's a cognitive dissonance here, which is the inconsistency between the truth and what people want to believe to be true. Okay, so the inconsistency is the perceived value and or application of NFTs versus the absolute value / utility that NFTs and blockchain technology can provide. Okay, so maybe part of the reason that there's this dissonance is that there's not enough light being shed on the things that NFTs are already solving. There's not a lot of people like now, in comparison to a year ago, there's a lot more people talking about them, right? Ever since Gary Vee made VeeFriends, and shout out to Gary, he's awesome. There's been a lot more attention being put into this industry, but there's not a lot of people who are actually like sitting down and educating people. And I think that's one of the reasons that Michael and I created Forge, is we realized that there was a problem, and the problem was this dissonance. And the solution was, well, we got to teach people what it is, and we got to show them, and we got to do it, right? We got to walk the walk, and we got to talk the talk. And we believed that we had the tools to do that. So we created Forge, and now we're looking in Forge. The reason the name is Forge was because we want to build the tools for other people to be successful using Web3, NFTs, DeFi, yield farming, all of the above. Okay. Our philosophy is do well, then do good, right? Do well for yourself, and then go and do good for the world. And so that's kind of how we roll. But let's talk about some examples of real world utility and application, which is taking place right now. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to allow people to, once we finish up this, I'm going to allow people to talk about what they think, some ideas that NFTs or some applications or utility that NFTs can have that maybe aren't being done right now. Okay, so right now, some examples. The music industry it will be reshaped by this. I can say that confidently. Within the next 5 years, the music industry and the access and events and memberships industry are going to be reshaped by NFTs. Okay, I'm on record right now saying that. I strongly believe that. So right now, there are artists who are releasing their albums as NFTs, right? And this can solve a ton of problems. I mean, Snoop is obviously doing it. He's big in the NFT space. Steve Aoki released an album with it. But let's talk about the martial law band. I was hanging out with them at DGen 3.0, and we were having a conversation. I was having a conversation with the one band member who is investing in crypto and stuff. We were talking about Guard. We were talking about the Wolf Den and different things. And then we started talking about NFTs. And, we had this conversation where I was like, well, why don't you release your next album with a limited amount of NFTs, and the unlockable content of the album is the raw audio files that you can only get access to by having the NFT. And then every time the NFT is resold, once people download the audio and they resell it to the next person, the royalties go back to you, right? Versus before, people could just download the audio and they wouldn't get a cut of it. The streaming platforms would get the cut, right? So now you have a band that's maybe struggling to pay for all their tours or the things that they want to do, their growth stuff, whatever. And you give them, I told them you could sell 1,000 NFTs that represent, you could sell 1,000 albums, right? And you sell them at $20 each. You now have $20,000 that you can go and if you want to, obviously, this is how I was explaining to him, you can take that, you can build a yield farm with it, and you can use the yield from the yield farm to pay for your traveling costs, for booking gigs, for things for the band, right? So now they have an emergency capital in that 20 grand, and they're paying for most of their things for free. And this guy was like, whoa, man, like, how do we do this, So this is I was just reminded of this, so I'll have to reach out to him now and see if they still want to do that, because this is just one example. I think the whole creative industry is going to be changed, right? Like artists and a lot of the issue for artists and musicians and stuff like that is financial certainty, right? There's always financial anxiety because they don't get paid what they deserve, to be quite honest. And I think that this disruptive technology has the ability to fix that problem and put the money in the hands of the people who fucking deserve it, the creators. That's powerful. Okay, that's a paradigm shift from a centralized system to a decentralized system. Now they no longer have to listen to the record label that's telling them you have to make music like this or we're not going to pay you, right? Now they can be like, fuck you, I'm going to pay myself. That's powerful. And I support that. Okay, another example, Coachella selling lifetime passes to their events as NFTs. I don't know if you guys saw this. They did it probably 6 months ago or something. Okay, this is big. Having a wallet that shows your record of events that you've attended to, having the NFT can open up discounts for future events. You can look at your friends' wallets and see all the different events that they went to, right? This is going to revolutionize, NFTs in general are going to revolutionize access, events, memberships industry. That is a given, in my opinion. Okay, you don't have to agree with me, but this is just the way I see it. Okay, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, they're all starting to incorporate the use of NFTs as profile pictures. And in some capacity, Meta is obviously a name change from Facebook that is referring to the metaverse. Okay, the metaverse is a big part of what NFTs will be, because if the metaverse is big, NFTs, you can see down here, I think it might be a little bit lower. No, it's the next one. Play to earn and gamification using NFTs as characters, avatars, abilities for characters, skins, weapons, all kinds of stuff, right? All of those can be represented by NFTs that you verifiably own, those attributes that beef up the value of your NFT, right? So if your NFT is a core value, but you can do things to give it a shield and a sword and an attack power, defense power, whatever, it becomes more valuable, kind of like a World of Warcraft character, right? So gamification and the gaming space is going to change forever as well. Okay, crowdsourcing funds to build things in the real world. I put this in here because look who's doing it. The Wolf Den, right? You're looking at Cleater, which is Joe Polish and Jason, and I believe Mike. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. They've created, and Nick, they bought a ghost town in Arizona, And Joe Polish is an amazing guy. The DGen 3.0 was at his office. He does amazing work, and he's looking to do good in the world. And so what they did is they created a digital citizenship of this town that they bought, and they sold NFTs. I actually have a founding member NFT in my wallet. They sold NFTs to crowdsource the funds to build the treasury, and then they're using the treasury to develop a schoolhouse and to set up different activities and all kinds of stuff, right? This would have been a much more difficult for them. I'm sure they could have afforded it, but it would have been much more difficult for them, and it would have been much less engaging from a community standpoint if they just used their own money to do it, right? Now there's the optionality of, okay, we can sell NFTs, we can take this raise, and we can do different things with it, right? The model that we're going to be showing people a lot, the model that the Wolf Den and Cleater and everything shows, is building a treasury using the yield, like the Guard Dogs collection we just launched. We raised about $40,000 so far, and we've created I want to say a $60,000 to $80,000 treasury farm with it at current prices where everything's down. So, and that's gonna pay for all of our utility developments. We're going to be able to buy back our own supply at a much higher rate. There's a lot of things that we'll be able to do with that. The point is, it gave us a lot of optionality, right? And it gave us power to not be dictated by just trading volume and the taxes that are associated with that. Okay. Next application, preserving scarcity in the age of digital reproduction. Okay. You can take this one as a bit of a hint at what our idea is that we're building on the back end, me and Michael, when we're ready to kind of tell people about it. The Wardens will probably be first to know. And we're really excited about this. I'm actually looking to talk to Joe Polish about this as well. So, but this is important. It's like in a day and age where you can just copy and paste shit, there's not a lot of genuine stuff out there. There's a lot of plagiarism. There's a lot of scams. There's a lot of issues. And I think that NFTs are a big solution to that. Okay. Proving authenticity of awards and provenance of luxury goods. This is just a verifiable proof of ownership thing, right? Not only do you get an Oscar, but now you have an NFT that represents ownership of that award. Okay. With luxury goods, proof of ownership is an important thing. Okay. And this solves a big problem in those industries. Okay, next thing, resale incentives for the original creator. Okay, royalties. This setup, like we talked about earlier, allows musicians and artists and other people to take part in the revenue that's accrued from resale after their initial sale that they normally would never have gotten anything back from. So this is a big thing for them, and we already talked about that, so we won't go more into it. Access to private events and platforms. Look who's doing it. Okay, DGen, Grey Wolf, all of their tickets were sold as NFTs. And the raise from those likely went to building the treasury and doing different things that were necessary for the growth of the project. Okay, the access to to events industry is going to be a huge one. It already is. It's really not a hard application. It just makes things a lot easier this way, assuming that pretty much everybody has a wallet, which is totally incorrect because only a little over 1.5% of people actually have a wallet. Okay. So if you're looking at how early we are, that's how early we are. Okay. Exclusive memberships. Like imagine if you had a country club where you had to have a specific NFT to get in or different things. And they could give you rewards based off of different things. So the memberships is kind of bleeding into the last we talked about. Monetizing moments in time, highlights. So Top Shot, if you guys haven't heard of them, the NBA is profiting off of digitizing moments in time that were highlights for different players. Like they just came out with a Magic Johnson set, and one of his legendary highlights. You know, they're making money on the sale of those and the resale every time they get traded. So it's basically like when we were kids and we had rookie cards in sports. Like I had a Kobe Bryant trading card, right? But it's now you can have the trading card and and you can have verifiable proof of ownership on the blockchain. So, you know, in 20 years, when this becomes a novelty or a rare item, you have proof that you own that item and you can resell it. And then you can set up royalties on resale of it. So every time it moves hands, that you keep getting that residual income. Okay. Proof of ownership in both physical and virtual real estate assets. Fractionalized ownership is one of the things that NFTs is doing within real estate in different areas. Okay. I'm not going to dive too deep into that. And then digital certificates for cars, driving records, medical records, all kinds of stuff. It's just everything that's done in a less efficient way that a smart contract can fix, or a public distributed ledger can show. I think these are quality applications that we'll probably see within the next 5 to 10 years, maybe less. Who knows? Just depends. But these are just a few examples showing how NFTs are already being used in the real world. The potential applications NFTs can have in the paradigm shift from centralized systems to decentralized systems are, in our opinion, endless. We're firm supporters of taking power away from centralized hubs and or middlemen and putting it back in the hands of the people who deserve it, the creators. We believe this will revolutionize the creative industry. We talked about that earlier. Opening up the space for invention and innovation to diffuse further. This is the future, and we are here to help build and support it. Okay, so that's the end of the little presentation I put together here. What I want to do now, I know that was kind of probably a lot. I don't know if I was talking fast or if I went off on a bunch of tangents or not. I do my best, but my ADHD gets the best of me sometimes. What we're going to do now is we're going to open it up. Please don't everybody talk over each other. I doubt that will happen, but if somebody has a question about something that I just said in the presentation, feel free to ask. Also, if you have an idea, maybe that you've been thinking about, that NFTs could be an application to solve in maybe a domain or industry that you have expertise in, we'd love to hear it. We want to be the place where these conversations happen. So feel free to unmute yourself.
Hey Dan, AB, how are you doing? Good to see you.
Doing well, man. Good to see you too.
I'm super stoked. I left a note for you today, but one thing I forgot to mention was I was psyched to hear about the royalties thing moving ahead, and that's going to make a huge difference for people that, especially like we talked about, like right off the bat, you know, people collabs and, you know, how do you get your money later on when you only work with two artists work together one time in their lifetime, and later on down the line, you know, who gets the royalties late, you know, so that's going to be awesome. I'm very stoked to hear it. And
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Are you here?
Yeah, no, I was just going to go back to listening. I don't want to interrupt.
Okay. My Telegram just like disconnected and then reconnect. So, yeah, no, absolutely. Like, we went to our dev team and we told them, this is what we want. We want the ability for people to set up royalties within a range on the NFTs that they create. We also want the ability for people to put unlockable content on those NFTs. Okay, whether it's linking to a private server or whatever. Those two functions are, in my opinion, the most important things to, where is it? To putting the power back in the hands of the people who deserve it. So if we continue to just trade images and say they have utility and build a big roadmap and lie about it and never deliver on it once the raise is done, we will never change the landscape of NFTs because they will continue to get a bad reputation. This is why we built Forge, because we want to show people, hey, there's some really cool shit you can do with NFTs. Want to learn how? They're like, yeah. Like, well, we have all the tools. Here's the education. Here's the tools. You can do it all yourself, and we'll help you if you need help. And we think that's powerful. We know that building a community is about giving and about really educating people. And that's why that's really what we're focused on today. And I'll share today, we gave an opportunity to the Wardens group only, where if they did something for the next month, that they would win $250 of Forge. And if you missed that meeting, I'm going to post a replay for it in the Wardens chat. So if you're a Warden, you can catch the replay. But at the end of the month, if you've done this, we're going to reward people, the Wardens, because they deserve the opportunity, with $200, or it was 25,000 Forge tokens, which is about $200 right now. Could be worth a lot more than that at the end of the month. Who knows? Could be worth less. But the fact of the matter is, we're focusing on changing things a little bit to incentivize appropriate behavior. We want to incentivize quality investor behavior. We want to say, hey, if we're talking about we all succeed by doing the same things together at the same time and acting in the same way and sharing a shared language, if you're following along and you're participating and you're learning and you're growing and you're showing that, we want to reward you. And we're going to continue to do that. It might not always be financially. It might be in the form of opportunities or proximity or other things. But we're going to continue to give opportunities to people who are taking action and working together alongside the team for us to grow this project to be what we want it to be. Right now is an amazing time for our diehard holders and our long-term holders to accumulate a good amount of tokens. We're sitting just right above launch price right now because we've seen the macro market as one factor. There are other factors. We can't just blame the macro market, but we've seen the macro market basically halve from where we launched, right? That along with the raids on NightSwap being just insane because we went 10x right out, 12x right out of the gate. Part of the reason that we're not putting a bunch of resources into allocating or into accumulating new investors and a bunch of new people is we want to give the people here who are paying attention, who will protect the project because they understand what the asset is and how to use it, an opportunity to accumulate as much as they want before we really start putting some resources into blowing this thing up, right? I don't think we're going to have any issue blowing this thing up. What we're doing right now is we're making the price, we're attempting to make the price of the asset irrelevant to the people who understand it, and we're building really cool shit on the back end. Both of those things take time. Time is on our side when we make the price irrelevant, right? Most of these projects, they've pitted themselves against time and randomness. And so you can tell by their actions, right? Their approach is like, let's dump 50 grand into CMC trending for 2 days. Let's dump 75 grand into PooCoin ads. Let's do these different things. Like, let's try to get as many new people as possible. You know how hard it is to educate a massive group of people?
Yeah, especially
very difficult
for exit liquidity, and it's a zero-sum game for most everybody. It's awful. So I totally appreciate all the stuff that you're doing, and Callie, Joe, Mike, everybody's. I mean, it's a natural progression for people who want to learn, and you're giving information. You can't buy. Well, CCA is top level stuff, and it's to trickle down is making such a difference in people's lives, man. It's awesome. It's been amazing to watch this time.
I appreciate that. I agree. CCA is incredible. We're just getting started, just learning from Randy Massengill right now, and then we start to learn from Dan and Nick, and I'm really excited for what's to come there. But from what's already come, it's very valuable. It's just tough because the process is learn, apply, implement, analyze, change, then teach, right? So the difficulty for me has been like, don't just learn stuff and then repeat it just because like you learned it, right? It takes a while for me to process it, understand it, look at it, apply it, analyze, then teach, right? So a lot of this trickle down from CCA and the different things that I've learned is going to come continually down the line. It's going to come through the private educational Discord that we have. So to end this video, the recording, if you guys have not joined the Discord, be sure to join the Discord. You can go into our main Telegram chat here, type /Discord. It'll pull up the link. Make sure if you guys are catching this on YouTube that you hit the subscribe button if you found this valuable, and hit the like button, leave a comment, do whatever you want to do. Hopefully it was helpful. You can look for the next videos we make. We're going to talk more about the different types of standards of NFTs. We'll do some speculation about what we think NFTs can solve that aren't necessarily being applied or done right now that we're not seeing, and all kinds of other stuff. So we'll catch you then.